Want to get creeped out? Welcome to Just a Little Stitious.
Where things go bump in the night, and sometimes it's just your fridge. Or it's us tripping over the furniture.
Or it's something terrifying, lurking in the dark. I'm Megan.
I'm Jess.
And we're about to scare your pants off, but keep your pants on.
Well, if you're at home, you can take them off.
Yeah, I guess. A few updates about us, about our lives. First of all, we had an episode come out about Mall World.
Mm-hmm.
We both had a dream about Mall World afterwards.
Yes.
Which could just be because we were talking about it.
It could be, yeah.
Also, I don't really know if mine was Mall World. It was in a mall and it was weird, but it was actually filled with people, mine. That's all the updates we're going to do for this one, actually, because it's really long. We'll talk about the other stuff in the other episode. We're going to jump right into this episode because it is a bit beefier. Same. This story is, I will say, like, it is fucking crazy. This is an extreme haunting. It's called the Union Screaming House.
Ooh, creepy. I like that.
And it is going to be 2 parts as well. This story is a lot of things. I don't even know how to explain it. The story is crazy, and specifically the first part is about the first guy who lives in the house. Well, not the first guy ever, but like his experience of an extreme haunting. And then this turns him into a paranormal investigator.
Oh, fun.
And he ends up helping the lady who lives in the house after him.
Oh.
So that's going to be part 2.
Neato.
Yeah. So the first part is going to be his experience.
Pretty cool. We haven't done a 2-parter in a while.
Yeah.
I think last time was the Tony and Deborah story.
Yeah, our very first episode.
Very first one.
A little bit about Steven. His name's Steven. He's the one who wrote this book as well.
Okay.
So he was born January 3rd, 1965. He had a happy childhood. He was a good student. He got good grades. And his parents were devout Lutheran Christians. He was also a national champion debater in college. Smart guy. He married at 23 and became a father shortly after. His firstborn was his daughter, Lydia. She was born in September of 1988. He describes her as walking to the beat of her own drum. 1 year and 6 days later, his son Michael was born, who he describes as quite serious. And 18 months after that, in January of 1991, I was born in 1991, his son Matthew was born, who he describes as sweet. Okay. So we've got Lydia, Michael, Matthew. 2 years after Matthew was born, Stephen's sister Janice passed away. And they were best friends. And she left children behind, and her passing damaged Stephen's relationship with God.
Fair.
He actually wound up becoming agnostic. 4 years later, his wife came to Stephen and said she was leaving them. Not him, them. Him and their 3 kids. Yeah.
Jesus.
She said it's not because she wanted to divorce him. It's because she wanted to divorce their children.
What a bitch, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck you. What a bitch.
Not nice. So she said she never wanted children and that she hadn't paid their rent in 6 months. So they had until Friday to get out because they weren't going to be able to stay there anymore. She even told him that she had considered just leaving the kids at the grocery store and just taking off.
Dude.
So Stephen and the 3 kids move into his parents. He basically gets a crash course on parenting because, you know, she did all the cooking. She did all of the childcare, stereotypical wifely duties that society had put on women.
The shit that I do.
And so he had to learn how to cook. And it's so clear throughout this whole story that Stephen, he loves his children so much and he has a really good relationship with them.
Good.
Yeah.
Hope that mom gets bit by a bear.
So him and his kids ended up renting like multiple different places throughout the first while.
Okay.
There was a flood that happened in Missouri. Oh, by the way, this story happens in Union, Missouri. I probably didn't say that yet.
Well, if I didn't know that before, I know now.
Yeah, there was a flood, and I'm pretty sure this is why they had to look for a new apartment, but it's not completely clear.
Got it.
So this is an ad that pops up for the house. 3-bedroom house for rent in Union, full in-town living, near most schools and the city park. Perfect for families. A full country kitchen with up-to-date amenities. Large living and dining area with original woodwork intact. 2 bathrooms with mudroom, full basement with fruit cellar attached. Large front porch and backyard. Perfect for children. The right house at the right price for the right family. If interested, please contact. I also want to say about this story that I did some serious digging after I read this book to learn about the person who owns this house. So like there is stuff that I'm going to be unveiling in this episode that is crazy.
Yeah, very interesting. Although I don't know it all yet. I just know that it's juicy.
Yeah. So he said in his book, the phone call came the following evening. So I'm not sure if this means that he applied for the house or what, but he was called the following evening and said to come to an open house to look at the house so that they could rent it. So at this time, Lydia was 12, Michael was 11, and Matthew was around 9. Steven and Lydia, his daughter, they went together to meet the house owner, Mr. Winters, who Steven described as one of the strangest people he had ever seen.
Seen?
Yes.
Interesting.
He was eccentric. He had a cock-eyed wig on a pale face with bright red lips. He wore bright wool sweatshirts or shirts, even when it was really hot out. And his wig would often start slipping over his face, and he would always just push it back up.
It's hilarious. Funny dude.
The house was built in the 1930s. It had 2 floors, 2 bedrooms on the second floor, and 1 bedroom on the main floor. The basement had what was called a butcher shower. So a butcher shower is where men would shower after they had slaughtered hogs. Right away, they noticed that the house was pretty cold.
Red flag number 1.
They just thought that the AC was really good at first.
Wrong.
Mr. Winters says several strange things about the house throughout the course of the story, but one of the things starts with him asking if Steven understands the responsibility that comes with living in an old house. Steven tells Mr. Winters that he does understand, even though he's not really sure what Mr. Winters is talking about.
He probably just assumes that it would mean like there's lots of upkeep or something like that. That's what I would assume.
You would assume.
Yeah.
But also it's not like the job of the tenant to like...
No, not at all. But maybe he means like, you know, you got to keep an eye on things and let me know. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Let me know and...
Maybe.
But obviously this guy's... What he's meaning is this house is haunted AF. So that's now your responsibility.
So Steven just hopes that they get accepted because there's a lot of people who look at the house. And I want to give a direct quote here from Steven in the book. Looking back now, I think I'd have to be naive to believe that evil had set its sights on my family from the moment I walked into the old White House. A chain of events had already been set in motion long before that, events I had knowingly helped set into motion, a chain of events that would change my life. The night after viewing the house, Steven wakes up to his son Matthew screaming. That's the youngest son.
My God.
Matthew comes running into Steven's room and frantically tells him that there's a man in his room.
Oh, God.
Steven searches the entire apartment to make sure there's no one there. He even checks the balcony in case this was a very smart man, and there is no man. Steven then lets Matthew get into Steven's bed because he's scared, and Steven goes to get water from the kitchen. When he turns the light off in the hallway, he sees the shadow of a man run by.
Oh my God.
But he just laughs to himself and he's like, oh my God, my son's getting to my head.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Later that night, he winds up having a really creepy nightmare. And it kind of also turns into a sleep paralysis episode. He wakes up in his room in the dream and hears a raspy voice say,
"Look at me.
The voice says it again more insistently and then says,
See me."
Steven pushes himself up on his elbows and asks, who's there? No answer. He asks again, no answer. He lays back down, thinking he was just hearing things, and closes his eyes, ready to go back to sleep. Then he feels an immediate, immense pressure on his chest, which this is typical for sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
It felt like something was leaning on him, pushing him down into the bed and pinning him to it.
Ew.
He couldn't move, and it was so dark he couldn't see anything. A voice whispers in his ear,
"You know you want to look at me."
Steven could also smell a foul stench.
Ew.
Which also commonly happens to people during sleep paralysis.
Really?
Yeah.
Bad smells?
When there's something on their chest, yeah. Which is so crazy.
Because it's like demon from hell. And everyone from hell smells. Well, it's just, you have to assume that. You have to assume hell is a stinky place.
Which is so fair, though. If you're going to hell, like, you're going to have to smell a shitty smell for the rest of your life.
I know. I've thought about this.
So
I'm
funny.
pretty sure I know what hell is like. And I'm pretty sure I've thought about it a lot. And it's a stinky place.
That's so funny. Steven is trying to move, but he can't. And he whispers, please, God. And the voice replies,
God isn't here. God doesn't exist. You've said so yourself, haven't you?
It knows that Steven's now agnostic.
Rude.
The pressure in his chest becomes stronger, and the voice commands again.
Look at me.
At this point, Steven does see something.
Oh my God.
He can see the white of its eyes glowing in the dark. Yeah, that's gross.
That's the worst.
It's gross.
Yeah.
The more Steven tries to struggle to get up, the more the pressure pushes him into the bed. He then sees white, ghostly hands right before they wrap around his neck. The voice then said,
God isn't here. It's just...
Then the voice pauses, revealing its face to Steven, which basically looks like a possessed Christ.
Huh.
And then it finishes its sentence as says,
me.
So
God isn't here. It's just me.
Ew.
Then Steven wakes up and sits up in bed, totally freaked out. Mr. Winter calls Steven about a week later and tells him that they got the house. He wants Steven to meet him at a restaurant to sign papers. While at the restaurant, he tells Steven to meet him at the house the next day at 2 p.m. so they can do a walkthrough and he can give Steven the keys. And Steven says he can't meet at that time. He has work. The earliest he can meet is at 6 p.m. Mr. Winter agrees, but states he must leave there before it gets dark. He says he hates driving at night.
Red flag number 2.
Yeah. They meet the next day, and near the end of the walkthrough, when they're heading to the second floor, Mr. Winters asks Steven, "You don't believe in ghosts, do you, Mr. LaChance?"
Red flag number 3.
Yeah. Steven says he doesn't and asks Mr. Winters why. Mr. Winters says, "Well, I haven't heard of any such nonsense about this house having ghosts. However, not everyone can live in an old house such as this. We had better hurry. Not too much daylight left." They were just about to leave when the fridge did an ice cycle and dropped a loud load of ice into its container. Mr. Winters jumps and is frantically asking, "What was that? What was that?"
Oh my God. This is your house, bro.
Yeah. And Steven tells him it's the ice maker. And he's like, "What the fuck?"
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Red flag number 4.
The day comes that they're moving into the house, and Steven and his father are unloading boxes from the moving truck when a car slows down, almost stops, and the passenger in the vehicle yells out, "Hope you get along okay here," and then drives off.
Red flag number 5.
Okay, I just want to just pause this, okay, and tell everyone that Jessica has an issue when we were recording. She has a gecko, and she literally can't stop staring at it when we're recording. She's obsessed with her gecko.
It's because usually when the light is on, he's like really chilling. But like the second the light is off in the thing, he's moving around all over the place. I only see it when we're sitting here doing this.
Right. But people watching this don't want to hear me telling a story while you're like this.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyways.
I will try not to look.
So anyways, back to the story here. Super weird. Jess just got up to get a pen. Why did you go get a pen?
Because I can't call out every time I hear a red flag. So every time I hear something that I think is a red flag in the story, I'm just going to mark it down so that later we can see how many red flags I would have caught before moving, either before or during this process. And I would have moved out.
Okay. Super weird interaction with the people stopping on the street. Then, while moving into the house, Steven notices something odd. All of the interior doors of the house have old-fashioned hook and eyelatch locks, but they're all on the outside of the doors, not the insides. So it's like locking someone in their bedroom instead of...
My door had that once.
Which one?
At Mom and Dad's. I had a lock on the outside.
Well, some kids do need to be locked in their bedrooms.
I had an outside lock.
Jessica was one of the kids that needed to be locked in her room, to be fair.
Memories.
Yeah,
good time.
So fond. So here's the first strange thing that happens in the house. Lydia wants her dad to hang up a large picture of 2 cherub angels in the living room. And Steven hammers it into the wall, turns around, and the painting immediately crashes to the floor. He puts it back up, turns to walk away, and it falls again. He puts it up a third time, but this time when he turns to walk away, he feels a rush of air near his ankles. And he turns around and the picture is lying at his feet. He hangs the picture a 4th time and says, "Stay there, damn it." And it does. Then his daughter Lydia calls him to the front porch because she wants him to see something. He comes to the front porch And she tells him, no one will walk in front of our house. Whenever they get to their property line, the person crosses to the other side of the street. They watched this happen in real time. The family watches as each person who is walking down the street crosses to the other side of the sidewalk whenever they reach their property line. Then, the first night in the house, so Steven sets up Lydia's bed in her room and his bed, but he doesn't have time to do the boys' beds.
Floor for them.
No, they're going to just sleep in his bed with him.
Oh.
But then sometime in the middle of the night, Lydia makes her way into his bed as well. And she tells Steven she got scared because her closet door would not stay closed.
Oh.
And it sounded like boxes were moving in the other room. The following morning, Steven's parents takes the kids to church because he doesn't go to church anymore.
Oh, fair.
And Steven is alone in the house when he hears a large crash upstairs. He assumes that some of the boxes have just fallen over.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When the kids get home, Steven and them go out in the backyard to do yard work. He asks his sons to go into the basement and get the garden hose for him. So Michael and Matthew head into the house. Michael comes out a few moments later alone, and they all suddenly hear Matthew screaming from inside the house. They run inside, and Matthew is pointing at the basement door, whispering, "Monster. A monster in the basement."
This is the youngest, right?
Yep. Steven goes to open the door to the basement stairs, and Matthew starts screaming. He tells Steven the monster chased him up the stairs. So Steven opens the door, goes and looks in the basement. The whole time he keeps calling up to Matthew, "No monster here. No monster here." Later that evening, Steven and the kids go get fast food for supper. It's completely dark when they get home, and every light in the house is on. He's immediately warning the kids that they'll have to get jobs if they don't start turning the lights off. Typical dad. Matthew goes to the washroom, and suddenly Steven is hearing his son screaming again. Matthew is trembling, and he says, "It came after me again." Matthew had left the bathroom door open so he could hear what his family was up to while he was going to the bathroom. Which is so cute and funny.
That is funny.
And he looked up the steps that go to the second floor and saw this monster rushing towards him. Steven asks him, "What came down the steps after you?" And Matthew says, "A clown. A monster clown came after me." Steven tries to convince Matthew that this is his imagination and that they're all safe, but he can tell that Matthew isn't buying it. That night, Steven and the boys sleep in his bed again, and at some point, Lydia crawls into bed with them again. Later, Steven wakes up from a noise. Standing in the doorway that leads from the bedroom to the living room is an old man wearing a flannel shirt. He was completely still and had no expression. He was just staring at Steven and his children. Steven rubbed his eyes, and when he looked again...
Oh, his own eyes.
Yes.
Oh,
he wasn't like, he didn't get up, go to the man, rub his eyes.
This is what I was picturing.
You idiot. Oh my God. For the people who have Jessica's level of intelligence.
Hey, someone commented on our last video.
I know.
And said they thought the same thing as I did.
Steven rubs his own eyes, and when he looks again, the man is gone. You're literally so dumb.
Just rubs an entity's eyeballs. Oh, a haunting.
Are you really there? Okay, anyway.
Do that. It scared me.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm crying. So funny.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So every day for the following week, when they come home, all of the lights are on in the house. And it's getting to the point like Steven and Lydia are making sure before they leave that every light in the house is off. Lydia's like Steven's little helper, you know? Like,
and she's like 12, 11?
12, yeah.
12.
So she's like his responsible older daughter who's like, yeah, the oldest sibling. Steven also every night is like doing a sweep of the house to make sure there's not an intruder because it doesn't make sense. What?
It's just, there's no one here, buddy. It's okay. But now every night he's doing a quick sweep.
Yeah, because he's like, is there someone coming into the house? That is what mom would do.
Yeah, because I guess he's probably thinking right now, maybe there's someone coming in. It's not like a spirit or an entity or something.
Exactly, because he doesn't believe in ghosts yet.
That's creepy, dude.
One day, Steven walks into the living room and feels a shock run through him. It makes every hair on his arms and his neck stand up. The living room felt super cold right after. Steven starts to think that there must be some kind of electrical problem in the house. So he has his father come over to look.
These men always trying to rationalize everything. Like, relax, dude. Just accept it's a haunting.
Exactly.
Just accept it. This book could have been like probably 200 pages shorter. You would have just accepted it.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, you're right. But also, you're wrong, because even someone who believes in ghosts and is a paranormal investigator should exclude all possible logical explanations before concluding that it's paranormal.
I just feel like if it were me, I would come to this conclusion much quicker. I would look at every possible scenario and very quickly figure out the truth.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Okay, tell me.
Stephen and his children only live in this house for a few weeks.
Shocker.
So he actually does figure it out pretty quickly.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah. But what happens in this few weeks is
mental.
It's a lot.
Bloody metal.
Jesus Christ.
I tried to say it like Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, God. So his father looks at the breaker box and stuff. He can't find anything wrong. And him and Stephen are chatting in the living room when all of a sudden Stephen notices that his father has his arms outstretched in front of him and is looking at his arms in shock. His dad felt the same electrical shock that Stephen had felt.
Oh.
His father says that he's never felt anything like that, and he immediately starts getting ready to leave. The next day, Stephen and his kids are at his parents' house for supper, and his dad pulls him to the side and says, "Now, I really don't believe in these sorts of things, but that thing I felt there yesterday got me thinking. You don't think you rented a haunted house, do you?" Stephen gets home with the kids that night, and all the lights are on again. He looks up at the second-story window and thinks for a second that he sees someone there spying on them. He chalks this up to his dad's comment, messing with his head. Him and his kids are having ice cream when they hear a large crash upstairs again. And Stephen reminds his kids that they really need to unpack those boxes that are upstairs. You might as well just keep the pen out and stop clicking it in.
I just feel like it adds a fun effect. And I've let a bunch slide too, by the way, already. I've let things slide.
After ice cream, they decide to have a game night because it's officially summer break. They're sitting in the family room playing Monopoly when Stephen notices something out of the corner of his eye in the doorway of the family room. He looks at it directly and sees that it's a dark figure of a man backlit by the light from the kitchen. He is in solid form, but this solid form seems to be basically made up of like movement. So this churning dark gray and black smoke
like
or
smoky.
mist.
Yeah.
Stephen looks down at the game board, sure that when he looks back up, the figure will be gone. He's like, my eyes are tired and playing tricks on me. But he looks back up and not only is the figure still there, but it's moving towards them. The figure's initially moving slowly, but then it starts to pick up momentum.
Momentum?
Momentum. Am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, you are.
How do you say it?
Momentum. It's momentum.
I don't think it's momentum.
It's momentum.
It's momentum.
No.
Okay, well, we're going to look into this after.
It's momentum.
The figure comes to the center of the family room and pauses. Stephen couldn't see a face, but could feel its eyes watching him, staring directly at him, challenging him. You can't put two down for the same incident.
I can, because not only did he see the thing and it didn't go away, but the thing is moving closer now and challenging him. That's two scary things.
Okay, fine.
Two red flags in one. It's
Fine.
a twofer.
Okay, fine.
This entity or whatever it is probably emerged and isn't going away for this because Monopoly is the most infuriating game you can play with your family.
I fucking hate that game.
I have fought.
Thanks, Dad.
I have fought with my dad and my son over that game.
I hate that game.
Countless times.
Okay.
I love it.
So anyways, the figure stands there for a few moments before disappearing. Stephen felt pure panic. He knew him and the kids had to get out of the house.
Does he mention, like, in what way this thing disappears? Like, is he watching it when it disappeared, or he just, like, looked away and he looked back and it was gone? Or, like, because I know sometimes with these types of smoky entities, they'll, like, melt into the ceiling or into a wall.
He doesn't mention it for this one.
Are they melters?
I think later. I can't remember.
Those ones are creepy. Melt away.
So he tells the kids that they're going to go to their grandma and grandpa's because they're going to go have a soda there. And the boys are like, we're playing a board game. But Lydia can tell something is wrong. And she's like, come on, guys, it'll be fun.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Girl.
I love Lydia.
That's tough.
This is crazy. Okay. She's got her pen ready. As Stephen is locking the front door of the house, they all hear a loud, painful tortured scream. It was the voice of a man in pain. The scream is so loud that the neighborhood dogs start barking.
Wow.
Yeah. Him and his kids start running to the car. And I can't remember if it's Michael or Matthew, but one of them literally jumps over like the front hood of the car and slides over it.
Dukes of Hazzard style.
Well, later he calls it his James Bond move. It's so cute.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never done that yet, actually.
But they're like, yeah, we need to get the fuck out of here. So Steven rips out of the driveway. Matthew tells him from the backseat, Daddy, the basement monster is standing in the upstairs window.
Yo.
I know. Steven looks back and can see it too. There's something standing there watching them leave.
And this is the thing that looks kind of like a creepy monster or a clown.
Right, but I think like he can't see those features.
Disgusting.
Steven and the kids walk into his parents' house and they immediately ask him what's wrong. And he says, I think my house is haunted. Didn't take him long. We really didn't. His dad asks, what happened? Steven tells them, I saw it. Dad, I saw it. It screamed at us. And Lydia goes, it was watching us from the upstairs window.
Oh my God.
Steven's parents are horrified.
Got goosebumps.
I know, it's really creepy. Steven says to them, it was watching us. So Steven and his kids stay that night with his parents. And the next morning, Steven starts feeling a lot of guilt and sadness because he didn't believe Matthew. And he says that knowledge still haunts him. So like, it's just interesting because we always talk about like parents and they don't believe their children. And none of them really talk about the guilt they feel afterwards. Like he was like, I feel really bad because my child was terrified and I didn't believe my child.
Yep. That is a feeling that you get with dismissing things.
Yeah.
I know this. And it never goes away, by the way. It stays with you forever.
Yeah.
So always believe your fucking kids, man.
So the next morning, Steven, the kids, and his parents go back to the house all together.
Oh, mom and dad come.
This is like a really strong little family unit. Like
Steven,
Steven, his kids, his parents, like they're all really close.
That's what we have.
Yeah. They go into the house and immediately after his dad says, it seems quiet, they hear a large boom from upstairs.
The silence is a red flag for me when you get there.
His mom is trying to
Rationalize
it. I couldn't think of that word. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She says, maybe there's a wild animal trapped upstairs. So Steven and his parents go from room to room searching the house and they don't find anything, including any proof of a wild animal.
I like that thinking of hers.
Yeah, because it
trying to rationalize. That's a good one.
It could be true. And I mean, people have had like raccoons in their attics and crazy shit.
100%.
So they don't find anything, but suddenly Lydia calls to them to come look in the shed. And the shed is actually filled with boxes. And in the boxes, there are birth certificates, death certificates, tons of pictures, photo albums, and mementos from family vacations. The weirdest part about all of this is that it's from multiple different families.
That's why I checked it off as a red flag. It must be memories and things of things that happened while they lived in that house and then they left the pictures.
Well, it's basically the things that people would only leave behind if they were leaving in a hurry.
I wouldn't leave pictures. Just FYI. That's like the first thing to go with me. First box I pack.
If you're leaving in a hurry and grabbing nothing,
I'd take my pictures. Honestly, there's not that many. Most people don't even print pictures
Jessica,
anymore. I won't take the frames, but I will take the picture albums and stuff.
Okay, I'm going to call bullshit on this. If your house is haunted and there is some demonic entity in your house, you're not going to be like, boo, boo, boo.
No.
Boo, boo.
Those
you're
can
going
stay.
to run.
The albums are coming.
No, she wouldn't.
I would not leave them.
You would grab your children and get the fuck out.
Well, you're right. I would probably have each of my kids grab one thing.
Oh my God, shut up. She's such a liar. Okay.
Everyone has to grab one important item.
Okay, fine. Picture this. The house is shaking. Pictures are falling off the wall.
Makes it easier for me.
You're going to say to your child, you each grab a photo album and then we get out of the house. You are full of shit.
You're right. I would probably leave with my kids and I would tell my husband, you get those fucking pictures or we're divorced.
Yeah, that's fair. Steven's mom then urges him to call Mr. Winter to find out what's really going on. She's like, this guy knows something.
Yeah, totally.
Steven heads inside to call Mr. Winters, and just as he's about to, he noticed that a photo of Lydia that had been hanging on the wall just moments before is now on the floor, leaning against the wall, and it turned his stomach queasy.
That's quite creepy. So it's a picture frame. Was it a wall of pictures? Multiple? Was there a picture of each child and just Lydia's fell?
I don't know, but he does kind of emphasize that it's a photo of Lydia. Like, he feels like that's weird.
That is weird. That would make me feel
also
very uncomfortable.
I want to say something about your red flags now. These are no longer red flags. This is a haunted house. We know now.
I'm going to keep doing it anyway.
Okay, fine.
I'm having fun.
Okay.
Do it on the next part too. Just to see how many creepy things happen.
I couldn't even put all of it in here because, it's a book. So Stephen has an uncomfortable conversation with Mr. Winters because he asks Mr. Winters straight up, is the house haunted? And Mr. Winters tells Stephen, no, it's not. He says the items Stephen and his family found in the shed are from a previous tenant and that he's been trying to get her to come and pick them up since she moved out. They get off the phone, and just as Stephen walks away from it, it rings. It's Mr. Winters. He's calling to tell Stephen that some of the boxes in the shed belong to a man who previously rented the house and seemed to have been a drug dealer.
Ooh.
He says the man got up in the middle of the night and left everything behind, and that he thinks the man was running from the police or another drug dealer.
What kind of drugs did he sell? Do you know?
No, we don't know. Because was he a drug dealer? Probably not.
Probably not. Mr. Winters is probably just an old grouch.
Mr. Winters is something. So Stephen and Mr. Winters get off the phone. Stephen goes to walk away again. It rings again.
Mr. Winters again?
Mr. Winters again.
Oh, I'd be like, listen here, you old son of a bitch. This fucking house is haunted and you know it. I want a refund.
He is calling to ask Stephen if Stephen wants him to get a priest to bless the house.
I thought it wasn't haunted.
He says one of the priests who dealt with the exorcism that the actual, the movie The Exorcist was based on, is at the St. Louis University, and he could get that priest to come down and bless the house.
Dude.
He then went on to tell Stephen that people who had previously rented the house had lived in sin, and perhaps their sin had brought evil spirits into the house. He was sure they had practiced witchcraft.
Dude.
And had burnt too many candles.
One too many candles, dog.
Mr. Winters says to Stephen, do you burn candles? And he's like, yeah, sometimes.
Do you practice witchcraft?
Mr. Winters tells him there had been one girl who claimed her deceased father would come visit her at night. He says, I guess in a way you could consider the house haunted. Let me call a priest and call you back. And Stephen tells Mr. Winters that he doesn't need or want a priest. That's the end of his conversation with Mr. Winters for that day. Stephen and his children and his parents continue to look at the contents in the boxes in the shed. And when they get bored of that, they decide that they're just going to go back to his parents' house for the night. Stephen was going to be leaving for work in Indianapolis, where Dad goes the next day, and his children would be at his parents' for a few nights while he was gone.
Oh, good call.
They all were hoping that some space from the house would give everyone a clear mind and that things would be better when they return. When he returns from his trip, he feels clear-headed and ready to take the kids back with him. The kids seem to settle back into the house quickly and with ease, and they have an uneventful Friday night. The next day, the Saturday, they're out for most of the day, and they go to bed early, and Stephen falls asleep right away. But he does have a nightmare. The nightmare. A nightmare he would have many times over the next few years.
So scary. Red flag.
It's a really creepy one.
Ugh.
It's dark. He's standing on the basement steps, and the flower neon printed wallpaper that's peeling on the walls of the stairway are barely visible. He grasps the handrail, steadying himself. He slowly begins his descent into the basement below.
What does he say? It's so creepy.
He's a writer.
Oh.
I'm reading it.
Oh, right. Duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
The stairs creak as he makes his way down. He can hear water running, and he's going to investigate its origin. As he makes his way further down, he can see a candle burning, giving off a warm, dim glow. His attention turns to the sound of rushing water. Along with the water, he can hear breathing. The breathing is the labored breathing of a man who seems excited. Stephen thinks maybe even sexually excited.
I was just going to say gross.
Yeah. He can see that the old butcher shower is running. A man is standing beneath it, showering by candlelight in the darkness of the basement. The man doesn't see Stephen. Stephen watches as the man cleanses himself, scrubbing a dark substance from his skin. His face is hidden in the shadows. His labored breathing becomes panicked, and so does the pace of his scrubbing.
Ugh. Sounds pornographic.
He can't get clean.
Ugh.
The man turns, and Stephen can see his frontal torso in the candlelight. Stephen realizes that the dark substance is blood.
I saw that one coming.
Steven wonders if the man is looking at him. He can't tell from the dim candlelight, but he can sense the man's evil eyes on him as he continues washing. The room then begins to spin. Steven can feel the man's eyes on him. He can't breathe. Steven wakes up startled, but immediately falls back asleep afterwards. He sleeps deeply and well, and when he finally wakes up, it's because of the sound of a lawnmower. He looks at the clock and sees that it's 5 p.m.
What?
Him and his 3 children slept until 5 p.m. that Sunday. That reminds me of the S.K. Pierce mansion where that lady,
it was
the woman, she was asleep the whole time, or like for a really long time.
It was her, and he was in some kind of dreamlike
Right,
state.
yeah.
There have been a few times throughout this. It reminds me a lot of the S.K. Pierce mansion.
Yeah, there's going to be more.
And it's hard to tell these stories after you read it from a book because I'm sure there's a lot that you're leaving out too.
Yeah, there is.
Ugh, I know, I hated that. I'm never doing that again. It's the worst.
Anyways, so him waking up this late, not normal. His kids waking up this late,
No.
never.
No,
He says the
weird.
latest his kids had ever slept in was until noon, which is also really late for them. So Steven and his kids now head over to his parents for supper because it's freaking
Dinner.
5 in the afternoon. When they return home, the kids are playing and Steven dozes off in his chair. He wakes up to his phone ringing, and it's his mom reminding him not to let Matthew eat all the leftover chicken from supper in one sitting.
Oh my God.
As him and his mom are chatting, he begins to hear the doors rattling, and he yells at the kids because he thinks they're doing something.
He should know by now.
Well,
He should know. It is not
the children. Then the doors rattle again, even harder, and Steven scolds the kids again.
Ugh, idiot. No offense.
The doors rattle again, even harder than the last time, and before Steven can say anything, he hears Lydia yell, "Daddy, that's not us. I'm reading and the boys are asleep." The rattling grew louder, and Steven felt the temperature in the house drop significantly.
Fuck.
He felt that bolt of electricity that everyone keeps feeling pass through him, accompanied by a horrible stench.
I got him again.
Then the screaming began. It began softly, then grew louder and louder. All of the bedroom doors slammed shut. Steven knew he had to get to his kids because he was now shut out from them.
Oh, shit.
By the doors closing.
Oh, fuck.
His mother was still on the phone and he yelled, "Come help us, Mom. Please come get us."
Oh, fuck.
Before dropping the receiver.
Oh, my God. That really got me.
The whole house basically comes to life. It begins to shake and loud booming can be heard repeatedly. The screaming is still going and Steven can hear Lydia yelling for him.
Oh my God.
The bedroom that Lydia and the kids are in, there's actually 2 doors to that bedroom, and one of those doors connects to the stairs that goes to the second floor. Steven just had a feeling like he needs to get in there because something is coming from upstairs to get into that room. The floor shook as he made his way to the bedroom door. He could feel something following behind him, but he didn't want to turn around and look at it.
Oh, good call.
The door wouldn't open. He knew it wasn't locked because he could see it wasn't locked. The lock's on the outside. He threw himself against the door repeatedly, but it wouldn't budge. He then yelled, "God, please, please help me." And the door fell open.
Wow.
Michael took Matthew by the hand and ran him out the front door and to the car. Lydia wasn't moving though. She was in shock. For the first time and the last time ever, Steven slapped Lydia.
Oh.
Yeah.
It had to be done.
It did. It did.
Oh.
She came out of her stupor and was able to grab Steven's hand and be led through the front door.
Oh, that's rough, man.
I know.
That sucks.
As they left the bedroom, though, the door to the stairs slammed open. Steven could feel something on their trail. The entire time, the house continued to scream, shake, and bang. They could still hear it from the safety of their car. Steven sped off down the road and stopped at the top of the hill to wait for his parents. They could see the house from their parking spot.
Was the house moving?
Well, they watched the house as they waited and could see a black mass moving from room to room, looking for them.
The lights, I'm assuming, are all on in the house.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Oh, no comment.
Once his parents get to the hill, he speaks to them for a little bit and his father says, "Let's go figure this out." The children wait in the car and his parents and his brother this time, his brother Josh, enter the house. Steven's mom says it seems too quiet, but her voice trailed off as she said it. Her face was ashen white and tears were streaming down her face. She was staring down at her arms. She had felt the electrical shock that Steven and his father had felt. She says, "My grandchildren aren't coming back into this house." and she leaves. Steven tells his dad and brother he needs to grab some of his things. The three began to hear movement and whispers from above as Steven was gathering his clothes. They all ran upstairs to the room that had been set up to be the boys' room, which was where the noises had been coming from. And of course, there was nothing there. Complete silence, nothing happening in there. However, there was a putrid smell. So bad that it caused all of them to cover their mouth and noses.
Ugh, that's how you know it's bad. You have to cover your mouth too because you can taste it. It's the worst.
They then heard a voice from downstairs, Steven's sister-in-law, Rita. And they went down to meet Rita just as Steven's dad begins to tell Rita that things seem quiet now. They hear a young girl scream, and they all just stand there silently listening to the scream. That's when Steven started to notice the sound of heavy, labored breathing.
Ugh.
The breathing was coming from in between him and Rita, who he was standing beside.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
So they all head to Steven's parents' house. As they're leaving, Steven and his brother Josh are paused on the front porch as Steven goes to lock the door. And above them is a canopy of two old trees. They hear rustling in the leaves above, and they both look up. It's nighttime, and they're trying to see what was making the sound. Josh then whimpers, "They're in the fucking trees." A shadow drops to a lower branch, like it's trying to take a better look at Steven and his brother. Josh screams, "Run, run!" And they hear something drop from the trees as they run to the truck. Whatever it was coming towards them. His father stepped on the gas with a heavy foot and got them the fuck out of there.
Jesus Christ.
Steven found it difficult to sleep that night. Every sound he heard scared him.
Yeah.
And he was worried that something would be like sneaking through the house to find him and his kids.
Well, yeah, I would be nervous of that too because they can attach themselves to you.
That night, he had the same nightmare as before with the guy in the butcher shower.
Ugh.
The next day, Steven calls Mr. Winters to talk to him about getting out of the rental agreement. Mr. Winters wants to meet Steven in person at the house the next afternoon. So the next day, Steven waits in his car until Mr. Winters gets there because he's not going into the house alone.
Fair.
So he meets Mr. Winters at the house, and Mr. Winters agrees that he'll let Steven out of his lease if they have someone else take over. And luckily, Mr. Winters has a cousin who's looking for a place.
What a dick. What an asshole.
Well, no, what do you mean?
You're going to move your cousin into this place?
Right, yeah.
You know that everyone moves out because they're fucking terrified? He hates his cousin.
Yeah, probably.
Hates him.
Steven wants to stipulate that there should be no one moving into the house that has a family. And Mr. Winters agrees. He says, "Of course not. I certainly wouldn't want any more angels in this awful situation." Mr. Winters' cousin agrees to take over the lease at the end of July. Steven only goes back to the house one time to get their things, and he goes with his father. They had moved most of the items out from the main floor when they began hearing pounding on the second floor. Steven tells his dad to ignore it, but also decides in that moment that he himself is done ignoring it. He goes to the bottom of the stairs and begins to yell, "You won. Do you hear me? You won. We are moving out. I'm getting out of here and away from you. Do you hear me? Now, if you keep this up and make this harder on me, I will find a way to make you burn in hell forever. Do you understand me?"
He's like, "It's not a threat. It's where I'm from, bro." That's my home.
So true. He's like, "I go there every few hours.
That's where I am when you're not here, dude."
Yeah, exactly.
In my burning cave.
Exactly. The house, though, then remains completely silent as Steven and his father pack up the rest of his things.
Note to self, threaten the ghost.
No, it doesn't always work out that way.
Threaten him.
It doesn't always work out. Mr. Winters was pulling up to the house as Steven and his father were leaving, and Mr. Winters tells them he's meeting new residents there. A car then pulls up to the curb, and a man, a woman, and two small children are in the car. Steven is super upset by this, but his father just takes him by the arm and is like, "We gotta go.
Let it go."
Yeah. More on how Mr. Winters is an asshole, though.
Yeah.
So Steven and Lydia at least are unpacking at their new place.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Winters shows up.
What? At their new place?
Mhm.
Why?
He says, "Steven, you forgot to give me the key to the house." So Steven's like, "Oh, okay, here's the key." But this is what Mr. Winters says while he's getting the key. This is a nice place. Nice and new. You know, some people simply aren't meant to live in an old house and everything that comes with them. I just think that you are one of those people."
You live in the house then, you fucker.
Exactly.
Why the fuck don't you live in the house?
Yeah, why
piece
did
of
you
shit?
Why do you jump at the fridge making ice?
Yeah, you fucking coward.
Anyway.
Giving Steven shit. Get real. Fuck off.
So years have now passed since Steven lived in the haunted house with his children. And throughout the years, he's had many sleepless nights plagued by nightmares and is in a deep depression.
Oh, yeah. It's a long time. That would have been in the year 2000 that they lived there. His daughter was born in 88, right? She was 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Good job. You're on top of things.
I was just thinking.
Yeah. Steven has a really bad nightmare one night, and it's a really creepy one, but we don't have time for me to share it. So Steven decides to share his experience about living in the house on the internet. He posts it on multiple online paranormal forums. By the next morning, he has over 100 emails in his mailbox.
Wow.
With people asking questions about his experience. And this is how he becomes friends with a woman named Sheila. Sheila gets the address of the Union House so she can go take photos of the outside of the house, which he was like, yeah, I think that should be fine because I heard that it's a dog kennel now. Okay. So one evening in May 2004, now 3 years after moving away from the Union House, Steven gets a phone call from Sheila. She tells him that she had gone to take photos of the house, but she was confused because what she was sure was the house was definitely not a dog kennel. She approached a woman standing in the front yard and told the woman she was looking for a white house in the neighborhood that she heard was haunted. The woman replied, "You must be talking about my house. My house is on it." And the woman's name was Helen March. And after some discussion, she told Sheila that she wanted Steven to call her. Enter Helen March. So the next episode on this is going to be Helen's story. And if you thought that what happened in this episode was crazy, prepare yourself for the next one.
I'm excited.
Okay. If you like stories like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and maybe hit the notification bell if you want to know every time we post.
And if you have stories like this, email us at justalittlestitiouspod@gmail.com and maybe we'll share it on our podcast.
Yeah. And lastly, check out our Patreon because you could become part of our research team. You could hang out with us. We could be friends. You could join our Discord. You get a bunch of perks. Just check it out, okay? It's just check it out. Just take a little gander. Take a little gander.
Do it.
Yeah, please.
Do it now.
Please.
1, 2, 3. Do it.
Okay. Anyways, that's it for this one. See you on the next one. Thank you for listening to Just a Little Stitious. If you like stories like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
And before you go to bed tonight, make sure to check under your bed, just in case that sound you heard wasn't the fridge.